All right, I believe that we are now recording. Hello, everybody. So I am doing this quick, hopefully quick, tutorial for you guys. This is for the student art sale that is coming up next week. It's coming up fast and approaching. Just to go over briefly, in summary, what I'm going to discuss is we have this here inventory sheet. I'm going to tell you about what code, item, name, cost, quantity sold, item description, picture, blah, 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 all those categories, what they mean, why they're important, and this is just a good reference guide for you guys to complete this. An inventory sheet is mandatory for an art sale for not only you, but for the people hosting the event and the cashiers. It keeps everything in order and in check. We'll go ahead and dive right in. First, we're going to go over code. So with code, you want to explain code. It could be listed as, I know they ask for also ID. On mine, I just put code because that's what I normally call it, but it's an ID, same difference. I actually just use my initials, and what it is for, it's used for identifying your art piece or your product, because obviously you're going to have an art name. We'll go over that in a second, but it is super important to have a code because what it does is it's faster looking up a 3-letter code as to where looking up like Spider-Man bows. That's a very long name, and if you have a lot of items and the cashier is trying to ring somebody up and they're flipping through papers trying to find Spider-Man bows, it's going to be a very frustrating process for them. So instead, we like to keep things simple. So we do the codes. Again, I use my initials, so I put AG, and then I put like 1, 2, 3. And that's going to help, again, for identifying them. You will be putting your code or ID on a slip, and I have a slip here that I kind of just quickly came up with. It might look something like this, or it might actually be a little bit different, depending on what tickets they're going to use. So it should look something like this. The slip is used for, you give this to the customer, so somebody comes up and they're buying a couple of your items. You're just going to put in, somebody wants a Spider-Man bow, so I'm going to undo that on. Alright, so I'm just going to put in A, G, 2 or 3 or whatever the art piece is, and we'll put Spider-Man bow. And then obviously you're gonna look for how much it costs. It costs $8, so you'll put in $8 here. If you have any notes, usually you'll do that. This section I would assume would be more for the cashier, as to keep track of what they paid with, if they paid with like card or cash, or if they did both. They do have receipts that they will be using, and it's usually it's like carbon copy, so they write on the top layer. That receipt goes to the customer, so they know what they purchased. One goes to them, so they keep track, and one goes to you, so you have track for your records as well. Another cool thing about hopefully the slips, I don't know if it's going to be set up anything like this, but usually when you have more than one item, you'll put it on one slip. If they're buying like a Wonder Woman bow 2, I'll just be like AG3, Wonder Woman bow, $8, and then I'll just put the total here at the bottom. And it's gonna be $16 or whatever. Then just to back out of this really quickly. So that's just kind of like a brief example of what the ticket might look like. Alright, so back to what I was saying. With the slips, again, the code is just really important. Keeps for great organization for you and for the cashier. Makes things go a lot faster, yada yada yada. Alright, base item name is kind of self-explanatory. You can name anything you want to your pieces. Just always make sure to keep it appropriate. and is still very important because, yes, there is a code, but you still want to name your piece. This is also, it kind of helps with a little bit of a description. For example, Spider-Man bow. Cost obviously is kind of self-explanatory, so is quantity, how many of the items that you have. Sold category. So with the sold category, I would recommend keeping a pencil and eraser on you, just because usually these are filled in because I'm doing this as an example, but usually the sold category is not going to have anything in there. It's going to be blank. So when you go, if you sell, I sold 2 Spider-Man bows today, I'm going to write 2, and then, oh, I sold 3, so I'm going to erase that, and then I'm going to put in 3, etc., 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 you know. All right, moving along. I will explain, I have these keywords here, and I will explain those. I'll go back and explain those in just a bit. I just want to get these out of the way. Item description, I want to explain that item description is really, really, really important. So the main reason that we do this is you do have the option to put a picture, black or white, color, your preference. But item description with or without a picture is important because let's say I have somebody that is purchasing a $1 item from me. So they're like, oh, this item is so nice, blah, blah, blah. And you go and you write them on that fancy slip there. You're going to go and write them. You're going to put whatever the code is. You're going to put AG4, whatever the piece is, and for $1. And then you're going to give them, you're going to total that, $1, give them the slip. You assume they go up to the register. Say you go to the bathroom, you're not paying attention. Well, the customer decides to come back, browse around a little bit more. Well, they put the dollar item back and they end up picking up your Spider-Man bow. Oh no, what is this? Okay, sorry about that, technical difficulties. So again, they'll go and do a few things. There we go. And so they go and they pick up a Spider-Man bow. Now, you didn't realize they picked up a Spider-Man bow for whatever reason. They take it to the register with that little slip. The slip says, and hopefully the cashier's paying attention, they look up AG4, miscellaneous, $1, and hopefully they see the item and catch it. If not, if nobody's paying attention because they have the $1 item written on that slip, they're going to ring them up for $1. They're going to walk away with an $8 bill. You lost $7. It's going to suck for you, and it's going to suck for your inventory count. So we want to try to keep all of that in line. So putting a description definitely helps as far as either visual or having it written out as a visual for the cashier. Now, we will go into, I did say we were going to talk about keywords. So I'm a very detailed person. I like to have things written out. It's very important that I explain it so that way I don't confuse anybody. It might come off as a little bit confusing, but I will try to be as specific as I can. With the keywords I use, so for example, I have markdown bows. So I'm going to be doing a deal for, instead of paying $16 for 2 bows, you're paying $14. Now the reason I give them their own category is because when I write up that slip, I'm going to put AG9. My handwriting's awful. I'm just going to put MD for markdown, and then I'm going to put $14. Now, here's where you might get confused. Oh, I'm going to put $14. Then you're going to be like, okay, well, what items did you sell? So here's the important thing. Before you put down that code, you want to also include whatever items that you gave them. So if they walked away with a Spider-Man and a Wonder Woman bow, you want to make sure that you put in those codes. So Spider-Man bow and Wonder Woman bow, that's AG2, AG3. So I'm just going to put this in here. I'm going to put AG2, AG3. 3, and then I'm going to put in that code for markdown AG9. I'm sorry if this video gets a little lengthy. I just want to make sure that I explain things well enough. So I'm going to put Spider-Man bow. I abbreviate just so it's a little faster. Wonder Woman bow. Now, because I used a deal and I put markdown, again, the slip might not look like this, but it's just an idea. I'm not going to put in an amount for those, but I will put in that $14 here so they know. Now, if I have it listed on my inventory sheet and it has like the definition, the description of what markdown is, then there's no reason to really put notes unless there's something specific or something's changed. But that's all I would put on this ticket, and so they know what items the customer took. They also know that the price is set at a certain amount, so they're gonna go ahead and take that and they'll pay with like cash or card or whatever. And moving along, sorry for the tippity tap noises. I'm using my tablet, so lots of backspacing. Alrighty, so moving along. You don't have to, I know I just kind of went into what my markdown is. I put bows next to it. You can have another section where it says markdown, and then I have earrings, for example, so I'll put like E for earrings. But I want to make sure that each markdown section, if it's a different price, I'm going to write it in another category. Like my other deal, selling earrings, 2 pairs for $6 instead of for $8. So I want to make sure I put that in there. And another thing is whenever I have a category where it's like for my keywords or anything like that, I put NA for quantity because it's not something that I have a quantity of, obviously, and I just put NA there so they know it's not like something I'm inputting later. You can leave it blank, again, it's all preference. Alrighty, and and again, I said descriptions are really important because we want to make sure that when we're communicating with our cashiers that they understand what's going on as well. So just briefly, if you haven't seen it, my description for this section for my quote-unquote item is marking MD under a sold column in an items category will show if an item was bought at a discounted price. If there are multiple of the same item or items bought, it will be listed as shown. So to explain that, and the way that my little system works is I have, for example, Star Wars and Spider-Man bows that I listed for MD. So I did 2 deals involving Spider-Man bows. I'll just explain that briefly. I sold a total of 3 bows, but 2 of those were marked down. So all I do is MD equals 2. Pretty self-explanatory. So out of those 3 bows, 2 were discounted. And it makes sense because if you are selling items at a discounted price, normally they're $8. You're selling them for $14. You divide that by 2, that's $7 a bow. So you know how much the items were reduced in price. All right. So kind of self-explanatory, but I don't mark a specific amount here because I only had 1 bow that was marked down in a deal. So I just put MD. There's no point in putting like 1 because it was just 1. So alrighty, I think that covers that. I have 1, and you're probably like adjusted price. Well, that's kind of same thing. Marking AP under a sold column in an items category will show if an item was bought at a discounted price. Kind of same thing. If there are multiple of the same items bought, shown as I put AP equals the number of items plus the sold price. Now the reason why I did this is because, my finger. The reason why I did that is because let's say I sold all my Wonder Woman bows today, and I had a customer come up and they're like, well, it's too expensive I don't know if I want to spend $8. And then I talk them down. I'm like, okay, I can do it for like $6 if you want. And then they're like, okay, I'll do it for $6. So I did this specifically because I don't have a set price like I do for my markdown. So it gives me a little bit more freedom. So when I'm making a deal with a customer, I'm not feeling restricted to like certain prices. But again, I give it a code, I give it a category, because I know that's going to make it easier to ring up. Now, here's the big difference is if it's sold, like I have my Wonder Woman ones again. I said I sold 4. 2 of them were at regular price. The other ones, I sold 2 at a discounted. So I had like 2 customers come up. I was saying I sold it for the $6, right? Well, I sold 2 items. If I had sold both of them for $6, I would just leave out the 4 because I would be like, okay, 2 of them were sold at $6 each. If it helps to remember, you could put each. If in this example, I had 2 different prices, so I just put comma and then I put 4. Pretty self-explanatory. It just keeps track of how much I was selling what for. So again, if you're going back to that sheet, I have my AG6. So I have, what did I say? Wonder Woman. We'll have a couple items on there, whatever. We'll say Wonder Woman bow. AG3. And then I put AG6. So again, cross out that amount. I will put, you can either put the item name or not. They're going to see it. I'm going to put, what did I say, $6. And then I'm just going to total it down here, $6. And then I'm going to give them the slip. The customer is going to go up to the register and pay. Pretty easy, pretty easy. Again, I know this video is getting kind of long. I'm trying to wrap it up here. Almost done for you guys. Alright, I think. Yep, okay. So I talked about those 2 things. Now, you might be saying, well, do I have to have it named that? No. You can obviously, you can go in there, you can name it custom if you wanted to, like anything that you want. Just keep in mind, description, description, description. Always elaborate, always explain. So I did explain the whole discount thing and I went over all of that. There's actually 2 more things I want to go over. I did have another category and it looks a little funny, but if you're anything like me, I'm one of those wacky artists. I have a bunch of old art laying around. I just kind of want to get rid of them. So I decided I'm going to have like a little bin of random, like I put here, random art I have laying around. And I don't know what I'm going to really like put for like the prices. So I kind of just rough guessed it. So I'm like, some will be $1, $3, or $5. So I just kind of put that in there. Again, made it its own category. I said, maybe I'm selling like 10 items. Now here's the little tricky part is you want to keep track of what you sold, obviously, and you want to keep track of what you sold it for. So I had my little prices in there and I went in here and I sold 1 item at $3. I sold 3 items and those items were each $1. So you can, if it helps to remember, you can put each next to it. It's all in preference. I just put equals $1 because I'm going to know I sold 3 things and they were for $1. Fair enough. All right. And then last but not least, I want to go over, as artists, obviously some of us do commissions. I would recommend going in here and again giving everything their own code, their own category. And you're going to put in, I'll say for commissions, I'll put com. And I'm going to have 3. So I'm going to have 1, 2, and 3. This will be $5, 10, and 20. So obviously, you don't really have a quantity unless you're doing something similar to like slot commissions where I only have so many commissions that I'm doing for the day, yada yada yada. You can do that, or you can just put NA, and it's kind of just comes as it is. Again, sold is where you'll mark them off, but description is super important. So like for a $5 commission, my friend, you are getting a sketch. For $10, you will get an inked version of that sketch. And for $20, you get the full thing, the full color, full everything. And it's pretty good, right? Pretty great deal. But, so always label it like that, just to get that out of the way and kind of organized. And another thing you might want to consider is sometimes you won't be able to finish a commission there, then and there that day. So what you might want to do is maybe take a deposit. So if I have a $20 commission, you can do like a deposit portion here, and then you can put like a description of some sort, kind of make it like a code kind of thing. However you want to do that, but just make sure to mark it up, take what you can for that commission as far as a deposit, and then follow up with them later. And that's also really, really important, just as a suggestion to my fellow artists is, and I've seen this happen quite often actually, more than you'd think would be common sense. Always get their contact information. A lot of the times customers will think, oh, they're gonna come find me, or they're gonna finish it really quickly, and then they're gonna walk off, and they've either paid or they've done something of the sort, and they're gonna be like, all right, I'll be back in like an hour, and then they don't show up an hour later, and you're just like, well, I didn't finish it, or I did finish it, and they didn't show up, so you wasted my time, and or you did the thing for them, and they just don't get it, so it sucks on kind of both ends. That is between you and your customer. You need to clarify all that information, get their phone number, get their email, any way to contact them, especially if you're doing more of a lengthy commission, because the school's not going to be responsible for what happens. You're going to come up, be like, who was that person? Do you remember that person from like 5 minutes ago? Be like, no, I think they're a teacher. And if they're not a teacher, you know what? It kind of sucks. So again, always make sure you get that contact information. Overall, that was my last tip, if you will. I hope I didn't confuse anybody too much anyway. If you have any questions, I am going to be at the school for art club on Thursdays. If you have any questions about it, art sales next week. So I hope you guys do have fun. Don't stress out too much. I hope to see you guys there, and I hope you guys do really, really well. If you need to get in touch with me right away, feel free to message me over Facebook or post on this post. Well, I guess that pretty much wraps it up. So thank you guys for watching, and good luck.